start.
Okay, hello everyone. Good morning. Welcome to our presentation. Today we are going to be talking about art through times, where we will be talking about a lot of different topics that includes Romanticism, Impressionism, Gothic art, Renaissance, Surrealism, and pop art. So they have both dressed up. I didn't get to. Are you gonna explain your costumes?
I'm dressed up to be Mona Lisa. I'm wearing long black dress and the gold frame. Yeah.
Okay. I'm supposed to be Marilyn Monroe, but then, yeah, I don't have blonde hair. I'm supposed to be representing art from the pop art era, and my painting, the Marilyn Monroe, is made by Andy Warhol.
Explain yours, Mona Lisa.
Yeah, Mona Lisa is
From which
from
era?
Leonardo da Vinci. And Renaissance art. It's Renaissance art.
And who has created you?
Leonardo da Vinci.
Alright.
Okay, that was all for the costume explanation. Michelle, you can start.
Have you ever wondered about what Gothic art is? Gothic art started in France, and from there it spread throughout Europe around the early to mid 12th century. The Gothic influence from Roman life, and Gothic means the Gothic refers to Goth. And the characteristic of Gothic is many of the religious buildings like cathedrals and church, and with the conception of God, they call God is the light. So the building up in the era became higher and lighter, and in the era many of the grade of cathedrals and both of a full following stained glass window, or we call as rose window. The invention of the era is wheelbarrow. By the 15th century, many of places have the wheelbarrow from mining to construction, and the five butters is this from supporting the building. The characteristic of the Gothic painting is more religious themes and portrait, and one of the famous artist is Ryoko. His painting is only Sati Madonna and the Crucifixion. And next, what is the Renaissance? Renaissance means rebirth. And Renaissance started in Italy and spread out in Europe around between 14th and 17th century. The characteristic Renaissance is a rebirth of Greek and Roman culture, Roman inspiration, and Renaissance is more realism. That means the quality of art is accurate and art is true to life. And Renaissance focus on human beings like education and value system. The invention of this era is creating cars, mechanical clock, houses, and eyeglasses. The one of famous artist is Leonardo da Vinci. He drew Mona Lisa.
Oh, he drew you?
Yeah. And the characteristic of Gothic painting is same with Renaissance is same with the Gothic. It's about religious artworks and portraits. Yeah, that's it.
Can you say something about the first painting?
The first painting is about human. Renaissance is more science. So yeah, many of the artists is a scientist. So yeah, he drew about science, human.
Alright.
There is a similarities and differences about the both art. Gothic and Renaissance have the same subject. Subject is about religious. It's more Christian artworks, and the worldview Renaissance is about scientists. Then Gothic is, as I said before, Renaissance. The artist is many of them is a scientist.
So, because it's very Christian oriented, where do you find them mostly?
Cathedrals, architecture,
And churches? Yes, yeah. Okay.
and the architecture and sculpture. The Gothic era architecture is more like cathedrals and church, and the sculpture like this Renaissance is more about the famous Renaissance is sculpture, and Renaissance era is the painting is more famous. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, next is Romanticism. Romanticism was a movement that started as a cultural movement in Europe around the time of the Industrial Revolution. It was actually Romanticism didn't start as a visual type of art. It started as a new literary type of art. So it was actually literature first in Romanticism, then the visual. It started to become more popular in visual at around the early 18th century. Romanticism's art style is more to a loose and less precise brushstroke because it focuses more on the artist's feelings and mood that heavily intertwined with their spirituality, their feelings, and what they wanted to paint. So they painted a lot of landscapes, also portraits, and it also heavily intertwines with naturalism. So these are the Romanticism inventions. The steam engine was actually created during the Romantic era. So locomotives was also created in this era because of the evolution of steam engine that made trains able to be walked on steam power. So the telephone was also made during this era. I don't have a picture. Telegraph, the rifle, which was during World War, and the electricity or light bulb, which was then So these are the inventions of instruments on the Romanticism era. The harp was created in this era because it was closely related to the artist's feelings, as it has soft notes. The piccolo, xylophones, drum, triangles, and bells. The next art is Impressionism. So Impressionism started by a group of rebel young artists who wanted to try a new art style. So they gained a lot of critique from a lot of artists because their art is new and not accepted yet by the peer publics. It started in around the late 19th century to
Is
the
your
early
outfit
20th century.
representing that lady?
No, I tried, but yeah, these are the paintings by Claude Monet. This was
Explain a little bit about the features using that picture.
Okay. This is Impressionism Soleil Levant or Impression Sunrise. These two paintings are made by Claude Monet. The paintings describes more on fast brushstrokes that captures the essence of light and shadow at the time rather than the details and preciseness of it. So they wanted to capture the moment. That's the type of painting that Impressionism is. This is a picture of a sunrise on a lake. This one is Claude Monet's wife with his child in the shadow of the sun. Yeah, so as explained earlier, it was a rebel movement. So the name Impressionism actually came from the painting from before, which was called Impression Sunrise. But it was actually also because of an art critique that called their art style only an impression, which the name stuck with both the artist and the public peer. The first art exhibition for Impressionism was actually held in 1874. This garnered a lot of outrage from art critics because, as explained earlier, it was very new and they didn't exactly accept new things back then. The examples of famous Impressionist paintings are Paris Street Rainy Day by Gustave Caillebotte.
Is it the one in the background?
No, it is not.
All right.
These are just other examples of Impressionism paintings. That one was by Edgar Degas. He mostly painted Impressionism painting based on ballet, and he usually painted them on spots. So while they were dancing, he painted them.
Oh, no.
Another example is also Lydia leaning on her arms in a theater box by Mary Cassatt. I didn't put the picture here, but it was a picture of a lady leaning on a theater box. Other examples, with other artist examples would be Berthe Morisot. She was the only woman who participated in the first Impressionism exhibition, the one where it garnered a lot of art paintings. Also, Camille Pissarro, who was older than the rest of the Impressionism artists, so he was both a mentor and someone to look up to. He helps a lot with the Impressionism arts. So Impressionism inventions are mostly inventions on the art side rather than other than romanticisms, things that could help the world. It was mostly for art because paint tubes and portable easels are made in this era, so they started to go out and actually paint. Because before this, paints are really hard to contain, so they had to paint it indoors because then it will melt and it's hard to keep track. So oil paint and hog hair brushes, also gravito tools, were also created during this time. So this is a paint tube. They only have white labels. And this is hog hair brushes, which we use to clean the easels and canvases. Scavito tool was used for carving, but this is also an invention of art. So next we're gonna talk about. Surrealism. So firstly, when you see these kind of paintings, you might even think like these paintings don't really make sense. What are they trying to say? Like, yeah, what are they supposed to be? Basically, surrealism, the whole point of making it is because it is supposed to depict a random thought or a dream which the artist had. Surrealism itself, it began in 1920 and it was found by Andre Breton. Originally, it wasn't like, it was made, originally it was made as some kind of outlet, literature, like poetry and all that stuff. And then it was, and then some people said, some artists such as Salvador Dali, Frida Kahlo, and yeah, they made paintings about surrealism.
Don't mumble, please.
Sorry, I'm nervous.
Yeah, as I said before, it began in mid-1920s, and it was brought from an earlier movement called Dadaism. Dadaism is from Switzerland. So here are the inventions.
So what is surrealism?
So
What is it based on?
it was based on Dadaism and the artist. The artist. It was supposed to be a depiction of the artist's dream and slash or random
Can you
thoughts.
explain one? Yes.
Wait, I forgot. Oh my god,
It's all right.
It's okay.
Explain one.
Okay, the background. Let's explain the background. The background is by
The one that I did.
Salvador Dali, and it was supposed to be like, it means that you like just time is just like
It's all right. It's all right.
I'm dying. Okay. Basically, time is just like flowing without you even realizing it. So you know when, like, for example, like you're at night and you're just like sleeping, and then when you wake up, it's already like in the morning. You don't realize that time is just like passing on like that quickly.
So it is based on subconscious mind.
Yes. Okay. So next we're gonna talk about the inventions which were made at that time. The inventions include the airplanes, which is that one. And then they had fridges, radios, and television. And aside from that, the artwork was also heavily, like, greatly influenced by the war. For example, like the Civil War, which broke out in 1936. And a few artists, including Salvador Dali, they painted about like during that time. This was the painting. It's titled On Cannibalism.
Do you have an explanation for that?
So basically, Salvador Dali was trying to say, sorry, this isn't clear, but these are like two people. They're eating each other.
Yes.
And basically what he's trying to say is like, kind of during that time things were like falling apart, breaking apart. So then he was like, people were attacking each other, and basically it did like harm to.
Oh, so this is a reflection of the Civil War and how people were going against each other, going at each other. I see.
Ryoko, does surrealism painting always have something to convey? Like if it is for romanticism or impressionism, it's just something to enjoy. But for this painting, it's something different. It's like you have a message, like the artists have a message to convey.
It doesn't really always have a message in them. Some of them do. That's great. Some of them don't. They're also great. Yeah, well.
Grace, can you help? Can you help answer that? Does every painting have a message behind it?
No, sometimes they're just fleeting thoughts of the artists or ridiculous theories that will never come true, but they just thought of it like flying elephants or something.
All right.
Alright. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Next, we're going to talk about pop art. Pop art was made in 1950 it was first made in UK, but then it became famous when it was brought out to New York. One of the artists which made it famous was Andy Warhol, and as you can see here, these are his paintings, and this is by Roy Lichtenstein, which is titled by this is Marilyn Monroe. The Campbell.
That's you.
Supposed to be. Well, okay. So, oh great. Pop art is usually made from commercial items and famous movie stars, like famous icons, like Marilyn Monroe and the previous one, the Campbell soup. I researched about why Andy Warhol chose to paint them both. It was because he simply liked it. Like he simply admired like Marilyn Monroe, which is why he painted her.
I
And
see.
he was like, she was like a famous art.
She
model.
was an icon.
Icon at that time. Like again, like surrealism, the war also affected it in some ways. So the war affected it in some ways, which explains why there are a few paintings which
Which depicts the war.
like now like Roy Lichtenstein. Here are the inventions which were made at that time. First one is optical fiber, which is basically in cables. And then we have super glue, radios, and radio tires.
Super glue was invented then.
It does look like this. It's different. Yeah. So this is Andy Warhol. He played a major role in making it popular. The previous one, he made Marilyn Monroe and the Campbell soup. He was born in 1928. He was born in 1928, and yeah, that's kind of nice. So we had a trip to Museum Wasan around few weeks ago, and in the museum there was this one artwork which had the most impression all three of us. It was made by Rahmayani, and it's called the Flag Project. It's been around since 2006. And it was in her collection, which is titled Masa Lalu Belum Berlalu.
The reason why we choose this flag project because it's colorful and many letters are used. Like in Japanese, ojodume, that means don't be urban. And we related to our country, Indonesia. We have a motto is Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, that means unity in diversity. So we see many of color, many of languages are used, many of differences of us, but we still one. And
These are the sources that we use for research. Thank you for listening to our presentation. Do you have any